welcome to the show. I'm Sherry Schreiner. A couple things I want to talk about tonight. Where to start? The Great American Ritual of 2017. And that's basically what this whole thing was today. And so I know they were selling it as a Great American Eclipse. It was actually a Great American Blue Beam Project, Skynet Project, whatever you want to call it. That was the distraction. That was just the distraction. Get everybody focused on this 70-mile wide. Really? 70? Is that as far as the Skynet holographic projection would go? I sat here watching the sun on my end all day. And mind you, when you looked up at the sky, it was just from noon to 2 o'clock, when it settled right in that, I don't even know what you want to, kind of like over towards the west, kind of south from here. I'm just staring up at it, not right up above my house. All these HARP puff clouds everywhere. You know how HARP is. They were just bombarding the sun. For some reason, they were trying to hide it on everybody else's end. I don't know why. Because I didn't want anybody to see the sun. But you know what? I had a straight shot through to the sun the entire time. I could see the sun. And the things that baffled me, and mind you, I was a journalism major. I wasn't science. I wasn't astronomy. I wasn't physics. The sun never changed. You know, I'm in southeast Ohio, and I'm staring at the sun, and when it came up this morning, it was gorgeous. It was big and orange and reddish. It looked like it was setting rather than rising. And it was huge, coming up out of the northeast corner. And so I figured, well, at 10 o'clock, it'll be dead east, and that's when this whole eclipse starts on the west coast. And so when I look at the sun in the east, to me, it's like way out there over the Atlantic, you know. It's just out there over the Atlantic. But somehow we're supposed to picture that at the same time we're looking at a sun that looks like it's hanging out towards the Atlantic, it's somehow over in Oregon, where the moon is going to pass in front of it as an eclipse, going west to east and stuff. You know, the whole thing was crazy. But I'm going to tell you what Father had to say about it. But first of all, let me give you my observations. And then so, at 10 o'clock, it's dead east finally, makes its way from the northeast over to the east, where it's supposed to be anyway. And then it starts its rise, and somewhere in between that and the rise at noon, I took a nap. And let's see, get up, and the sun is brilliant. It's huge. Very, very, very bright, very big, very round. Nothing different about the sun except all the little chemtrail clouds. And one thing I noticed that I caught on my video camera was that they had these extremely black-tipped clouds around the sun because they wanted to darken the sun. And so they were using their black clouds. I don't know if you guys have seen those. I see them quite a bit. The black cloud tech where it's like they spray paint clouds to look completely black. And they had those positioned around the sun. But the sun was still blasting through, and no matter what they were trying to position in front of it, I could still see a pathway straight to the sun. The sun never darkened once the entire day here. Never once. Never once. Never once saw one bit of black other than the black-tipped clouds they were trying to put around the sun. And so I thought it was crazy that if the moon was in the sky, that only a particular amount of states would be able to see it during the day, because it's oftentimes when you look outside and you see the sun in the south or the moon in the south, it always kind of hangs southeast from here. It always looks like it's hanging in the south. You'll see it in the middle of the day. That's nothing new. That's nothing new to see the moon during the middle of the day. And so why wouldn't we be able to see the moon on eclipse day? Because they're saying the moon's passing in front of the sun. Really? Because, okay, you have half the country saying they see a sliver for the moon. It's a new moon, so it's a sliver? Because I've always known a new moon to be big, round, and full. But then you'll have all these people saying, oh, the new moon is just a sliver. It's like a taco looking, like a banana looking. Well, I don't care if it was a full moon or a banana looking moon. I saw no moon all day. So if the moon was in the sky, don't you think the entire country would have seen it? Because we've never been limited to a 70-mile radius. Okay, the moon's passing Pennsylvania. Everybody within a 75-mile radius, you're going to be able to see it tonight. I mean, seriously, come on, folks. If the moon was up there, we'd all seen it. So I don't care what it was doing. If it was dark in your approved state for it to be dark during the eclipse, it would have still looked the same on our end, but we still would have seen it. It might not have darkened on our end, because I get it. Some people will see the moon and it looks yellow and or red. They'll get pictures of a red moon, and the other half of the country sees it as normal, as white. Okay, I get that. Some people can see a red moon, other people are seeing a white moon, depending on where you're at. But that point being, you're still seeing the moon. Everybody's looking at the same moon, even though it might look different to other people across the country. Different colors, different shades. Maybe it's covered up by clouds, whatever. Maybe it's covered over, you don't see it. Well, the other half does. But the point being, it's still there. So where was the moon during this eclipse? Why did it only show up in that 70-mile radius from Oregon, one tip of the country? In fact, it started in the ocean outside Oregon, all the way to South Carolina, one tip to the other, along the 33rd degree parallel. Because it was a Masonic ritual, folks. The entire thing was a Masonic ritual, and it was symbolizing to them, because this was a huge occultic ritual. It was not an eclipse by the god. He had nothing to do with it. That's why he wouldn't say anything about it to me when I would ask him. He wouldn't even talk about the eclipse, because it was a non-event to him. It wasn't his. It wasn't even orchestrated by heaven. It was orchestrated by NASA. It was a great ritual for the black sun setting over the USA. Typically, when you use the term something from east to west, it means totality, one end to the other. But in Satanism, you flip everything upside down and you reverse it. So in this case, you had the black sun setting over the USA from west to east. And Satan represents the black sun. So this was a huge ritual that Satan is taking total control and domination of the entire country from west to east, east to west, however you want to look at it. That's what the whole ritual was for. It was also a staged ritual to bring all the false religions and especially all the New Agers into global meditation. They all had their meditation stuff going on. Everybody had their groups and their religions going. Everybody's doing home private meditations during this time, this huge astrological event, which wasn't really real anyway, so how is your meditations going to work? But the whole point was to bring energy together, to bring about the birth. And you bring all these, it's like a huge worldwide groupthink, and you pull everybody's energy that's being created from this groupthink to try to produce the energy to bring about a birth. And they're trying to birth their global world order, which is what I've been calling the New Age alien agenda, because it has huge significance for bringing about GESERA, which is the Global Economic Security Reformation Act, which took over from NESERA, which was supposed to be national. It went global to GESERA, and they want to begin this new regime on Earth with a new global economic system that's going to take over the world. They're going to have a new global economy. They're going to bring in their 5G death network. They're going to bring in enforced vaccinations and 666 chip implanting. You can see where this is heading, folks. Satan's domination of the world. So this is why this was such huge significance for them and all of their occultics. Oh, look, so Salem. And Christians are trying to pull some kind of religious significance out of all this. And, you know, that just makes me sick to see how led by the nose so many of them are by the Satanists. That they would try to take one of the biggest satanic rituals ever masterminded and created and put off in front of the whole world, and the Christians are trying to make some religious significance out of it. That's how apostate Christianity is. It's just sickening. It's just tiring. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of them. The Lord definitely needs to just refine his people or just destroy them, because we know judgment begins at the house of God first. He doesn't have to go very far. We're surrounded by pagan Christians, pagan Christianity. There was no object near the sun, first of all. There was no object, because I've seen the black planet at night. And, of course, they're trying to say that physics blocked anyone from seeing the moon because the light was reflected back to the moon because it was passing, or light was reflected back to the sun because as it passed the sun, the dark side was towards Earth. Hogwash. I mean, how many times have we seen planets and objects in the sky at night? You can still see their outline even if there was no light emanating off of them. So I don't buy the physics of this whole thing. I just get very sarcastic when somebody starts with the physics, because it doesn't make any sense. It sounds like a bunch of hogwash, because you can see the outline of a moon even if you would have seen a black outline. It would have been black. If we were looking at the dark side of the moon, it would have been black. And so some people are showing videos of this crescent moon. A new moon is huge. I don't know where have I been? I always thought a new moon was like a full moon, like it was a huge and round and full moon. And then other people are blasting videos on their cameras of a huge full moon, like you would expect, a huge circular moon. Well, why is it some people only seeing a crescent-shaped moon? Other people are seeing a full moon that you would expect for an eclipse. I mean, how do you do an eclipse with a crescent-shaped moon? How does that darken anything? How does that pass in front of the sun and cause a darkening if it's just a crescent-shaped moon? That's about the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And how is it that 10 hours away in Tennessee, which is probably not even 10, maybe 8, it gets completely dark and they see a full eclipse, like everything like out of a science book, like it should have been. But then three hours east, they don't see anything because they're not in the 70-mile radius, which makes you think what the heck was going on in the 70-mile radius, this path of the eclipse, the ecliptical path. You know, it makes it look like Skynet failed them. I don't even know what it's called. I seriously don't. I just know that there was some kind of tech used, and they had a 70-mile radius. It was like a net. And so obviously it failed them when half the country sees a sliver of a moon, the other half sees the full moon. There's no way on the West Coast, if it was a sliver, that the sun got dark and anybody got pictures of a huge black planet in front of them. It's the sun, not with the sliver of a moon showing. I mean, it just seems unreal to me. It just seems ridiculous. Anyway, you know, some of you are telling me to get out of science. You don't know what you're talking about. Get out of science. Go back to journalism. Okay. Just my observations. Because you know what? I talked to the father after the whole thing. And I was like, what was that? Because you know what? All week long, I would ask him, you know. He wouldn't say a word about the eclipse to me. Not a word. Not a word. Because he typically won't. If something is an orchestrated false flag event by the New World Order and Satan freaks, he won't tell me ahead of time. He's not going to tell me ahead of time 9/11's coming. You know, he doesn't tell me that stuff. He doesn't tell me their plans and their agendas. He wants me to look for his coming. And so he focuses me on his coming, and he'll tell me, like I ask him to give me a heads up on destructions that are coming, and so he gave me a prophetic dream the other night, and it had nothing to do with the eclipse. That's like he gives me this dream of this destruction that's coming, but it has no time on it. No time. He didn't say this is going to be caused by the eclipse. In fact, the eclipse was a non-event. I was practically yawning before it even started because it was going to be such a non-event. Now, what's interesting, and some of you people out there with contacts that I don't have, there was something going on with the reason why they were trying to cover up the sun with the chemtrail puffy clouds and stuff, because they were testing stuff against the sun. They were, I believe, what they wanted to do in a perfect world. They were going to blow up the sun, nuke the sun, and the blowback would have caused, right at the point of the eclipse, the blowback would have caused a huge solar wave to hit the Earth, and it would have becoming an EMP at this point, and blowing out our grids. They're either practicing for it, or that's what they were trying to do. Because first, well, either both failed, because they didn't get the sun dim at all. Because I've been telling you, I'm in Ohio, and that sun never changed all day long. You could have roasted marshmallows on it. It was so hot. It's a beautiful sunny day in Ohio. Not once did it ever get dark until those black clouds would get in front of it, and then they would shoo away. The sun was always visible through those clouds. There was always a path direct to here. That's how I know it never darkened. There was never one black spot on the moon. Now, some people on the west, or on the sun, some people on the west coast or whatever are saying that they're looking, and they saw what they thought was sunspots or sun flares coming off the moon. It's because they were trying to blow it up. They've done this to Jupiter before. Remember several years back, 2010, 2011, they hit Jupiter with a nuke. They were trying to blow it up because theoretically, on paper, someone's paper, not mine, if you blow up the sun, it will cause a huge explosion and go completely dark, just blacken out, completely dark for a couple of days, because it has to resettle and then it'll reignite several days later and come back to light again. That's theoretics. And what they want to do is they want to blow up the sun just to get rid of it in the perfect world, alien world, because they hate the sun. They don't want sunlight. If they had their perfect world, Earth would be dim at all times. It would be dusk-like here at all times. They hate the light. They hate the sunlight. Anything light is the Father. They hate the Father. And so what better way than to try to blow up the sun, because the sun represents light. They hate the light. And so they instituted this chemtrail program, which was supposed to put a covering, a net, around the Earth to block the sun, to block the light. The whole point of chemtrails, besides 100 million things to kill you, was to dim the sun and cause the light on the Earth to drop much, much, much dimmer. And they haven't been able to do it with the chemtrails because we started a war against the chemtrails with our orgone. And our orgone attacks the chemtrail clouds. Our chemtrail clouds don't stick in the area, so they'll bring those harp clouds in, those puffy things. But you see the chemtrail planes out crisscrossing and Xing the skies every night, east, west, always to sunset or sunrise. Or they use it to hide things. Right now they have this smart dust program going on where they're dumping some kind of dust on the Earth. I haven't seen it myself, but I'm seeing it in the Bible codes, this dust. And so they're trying to dust the Earth. I had a vision years ago about this poison they were using, and people were walking out of buildings in a city and just falling down dead. One breath of the stuff. That'd be like anthrax, where you take one breath of this dust and you fall over dead. People were dead everywhere. But that's what they want to do. They want to dim the sun through the chemtrail programs. They also put aerosols in it so they can use it for their holographs, which is, what did they use to create the full eclipse effect in that 70-mile end from like Illinois to South Carolina because there was never any objects in the sky. There was never a black planet in the sky. The moon wasn't even there, so they can't say it was the moon. It wasn't there. Neither was a black planet. I'm focused on the sun. I'm not seeing any objects near the sun, period. So nothing's passing in front of it to cause darkness in that 70-mile path. What's causing that darkness? You know, what did they use? How did they pull that off? Some kind of blue beam technology they were using. I'm sure they're way, way far and above an advanced blue beam, but we don't even know what the new terms would be because they change them all the time. But people familiar with the New World Order agenda know what blue beam is, using holographics and stuff. Anyway, so no one sees anything that's not inside that if you're not in the 70-mile path, you don't see anything. You don't see any objects. You don't see anything. No changes. But people in that ecliptical path see the changes. It was all occultic. All occultic. And I picked that up when I wasted my time watching this video last night or early this morning. And I was talking about all those salams that was passing through. Jerusalem, so look, Salem, Oregon, and Salem, Illinois, and Salem, all these places. Salem Road. They went so desperately to include a road named Salem. I just started laughing. When they start to stretch, and they just look so desperate, it's pitiful. Because Salem's in the word Jerusalem. Really? And then all the 33s, you know, the 33rd parallel, so all the Illuminati cultic numbers. It had everything to do, which is trying to practice. What they want to do is be able to master the sun. They want to be able to create solar flares at demand, and so that's why they're sending these nukes into it. I think somebody said NASA was sending bacteria and viruses into the sun. That's flares, seriously. No, they probably had nukes on these balloons, and they were trying to nuke into the sun. I would believe that a lot more than viruses and bacteria, because they already control the weather. They can control when it rains and when it doesn't. They can control when the sun shines and when it doesn't, because they'll just put a net over your area and block out the sun from shining in your area. You can pay companies, and not just in America, but in Europe and Russia, you can pay companies to send a tornado somewhere, or like a hurricane. That's actually feasible now. If you have money, you can pay for the kind of weather you want, a weather attack on somebody else. That's why they call it weather warfare. It started with Katrina, when Russia sent Katrina to destroy Louisiana. But that's what they're doing, and now they want to manage the sun. Now they want to have control and dominance of the sun to be able to create solar flares at whim. Now, solar flares, people think, they want to take out the power grid. That's not really the issue. It's not really about the power grid of the world that they want to take out. It's not really an issue. What they want to do is, because I've talked about it years ago on my show, when solar flares are hit from the sun towards Earth, and I wasn't the one who figured this out. It was my buddy. She would watch it all the time. She watched the weather, how it reacted, what worked. She wasn't a scientist either, but she figured this one out, and I asked Father about it. When the sun shoots a solar flare to the Earth, it opens a portal. It opens a highway, like a portal, to the Earth. And so you typically, when the sun shoots a portal to Earth, it takes 2 days to hit the Earth, 2 to 3 days, and you'll feel that solar flare effect when it shoots a flare to Earth. Well, that flare is like a missile going through, I don't know, dirt. And what it does is create a clean portal all the way to Earth. I'm trying to say, so somebody could travel behind it. It opens up a passageway all the way to Earth. It's like ships could come in, so to speak, alien ships, starships, anything trying to come in would follow the solar flare from the sun to the Earth. You just follow the path. You stay on the trajectory path. They do the same thing with comets. And comets are just carriers. I told you that. They're hollowed out spaceships is basically what they are, because they're hollowed out. And they use them as airplanes, alien airplanes from deep space. You take a comet, towards the Earth. Then you get out. Or you hijack it, you follow the trajectory behind a comet with your starship, and you follow their path into the Earth, into the solar system. They can't just go from any point of entry in the universe and descend on Earth. It doesn't work that way. There are layers around us, protective layers. I did a video on the layers that surround the Earth. You can see how the Van Allen belts work and all that. So even aliens have to have a portal, a direct pathway into our atmosphere, into our solar system, into our atmosphere, to even get close to Earth. You can't just drop in from anywhere in the universe. It doesn't work that way. And so that's how protected Earth is. It shields and nets and layers around it. And the only way our enemies get in is by portals. So that's what solar flares do. They create portals. And CERN's doing the same thing. CERN creates portals to allow fallen angels in. Now, this is all energy-based. You say, well, because I can say, well, why do we always need portals? Why do we need CERN? Whenever something's energy-based, it runs out of energy. You know, if you ever anointed your home with anointing oil, it wears off in 3 to 5 days, 7 days max. It wears off when you have to keep anointing your home because it's energy, and energy wears off. And so the same thing with portals. When you open a portal through a solar flare, the energy that's created by the solar flare impact from the sun to Earth, or a CERN opens up a portal from all their CERN madness over there, that thing they use, eventually the portal closes. It doesn't stay open permanently. So you're always trying to find ways, always having to reopen portals everywhere. It's a never-ending thing. It's not permanent. One thing that is permanent is the aura around Earth, which is a living aura, which is an etheric energy, an ether aura, and it's the blue aura you see around Earth from space photos. People say NASA's been faking space photos for years. That's not really round. It's flat. I don't even deal with those flat earthers. I don't deal with those people. But that blue aura, that living aura, that positive energy, it's produced by the sun, and it's what keeps us alive. It's what gives us the air we breathe. It's what keeps our plants alive, our trees alive. It's what keeps humans alive. And that's an energy produced by the sun. Now, when they try to combat it by blowing up the sun with their nukes, by their chemtrail programs, we combat that with our orgone products. Our orgone energy puts balance back in the air. It knocks out what they're trying to do and keeps the ether energy dominant on our Earth. So you're balancing the air with that. People go, what all does orgone do? Orgone does a million things. But I've always said it's the very breath of the Father himself, because it emits orgone energy, etheric energy constantly. It never stops. You can anoint your home every 3 days for the rest of your life, and you're going to be busy anointing your home every 3 days. Or you can just put orgone in it, and it's a constant emission. It never stops. See, I got tired of anointing my house all the time. It's like, Father, we need a weapon in these last days, something to protect us from them. And what we found was that this ether energy, etheric energy, does a million things. And it's a positive, good, light, living energy. And it destroys evil, because anything evil does not like living, light, good. It's the complete opposite. So that's why they have so many problems with it. And we've been so successful with it, crashing over 17,000 of their ships, about 18,900. So yeah, they get mad, they hate the orgone. Good. So anyway, this is where we're at. The great ritual of August 21st. Seriously, folks. I'm just so disgusted with the whole thing. The whole thing is so pathetic. They'll come out with all these videos now of the Great Eclipse. It's a charade. It's a charade. Oh, it got dark in my hair. Yeah, because they have these black-tipped clouds around the sun. Really black. Like you can't get any blacker than some of these black clouds that I've seen. They tip the tops of clouds with this black stuff. Yeah. It was another psyop and the crisis actors were clouds. This, and somebody was asking if is this the Amos 8 eclipse when the sun is darkened at noon, and no, the Father had nothing to do with this eclipse. This eclipse wasn't biblical. It wasn't prophesied. It had nothing to do with the Father. This eclipse was a total orchestration of the New World Order and their Skynet and their Blue Beam and their occultic technologies. The whole thing was a sham. Because you know what? If the Father was going to orchestrate an eclipse, if we had one on schedule, because he does everything in order, and it wouldn't be only seen on a 70-mile path, I'll tell you that. It would be worldwide. The intended people would see it, not just a trajectory path of limitations. The whole thing is just so ridiculous. So it doesn't make any sense to me physics-wise, because you would still see an outline of a planet. You would still see something, whereas half the country seeing a different part of the, different parts of the moon. I mean, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. On the other side's not seeing anything. I never saw one change to the sun all day long. It was bright. No objects near it. So how are you seeing objects in the West Coast and we're not seeing any objects near it on the East? Because it's a charade. They're using some kind of tech. It's all technology. So what's to come? Well, you know what? Obviously they're trying to bring in the birth of their New Age global agenda, which promises wealth and prosperity to all. Yeah. Great wealth and prosperity to everyone, and they're all jumping up and down in glee and excitement, and they're saying, oh, Trump is supposed to make the speech of the century tonight, and I don't see any speech on TV. I gotta saw some preseason football. But they're supposed to be implementing this Gesera, this New Age government, and a lot of people are going to be backtracking, trying to figure out what this is, because the churches don't teach it. I, on the other hand, have been warning people about it since like 2004, because this is the government, the economic program, everything of the beast. This is from which the beast of Revelation chapter 13 arises out of, the Antichrist, the false prophet. It's this eighth and final regime to take over the world. And that's why you're seeing such a push for transgenders and transhumanists, because transhumanists are controlled humans, basically, robotic humans. They want to eliminate all humans off the planet and just have ones that are robotic, ones that can be very controlled by them, because they hate humans. I remember a long time ago there was this group, I'm not going to say the name of it, but it was half humans, half military and government, and they wanted me to join them and work with them and fight against the New World Order, and we both hated the New World Order. The Father had told me that the aliens working with the humans were going to betray them. They were just players. They're controlled opposition. They put together all these disgruntled military and government employees, people with expertise and experience, and it could be a threat to them, and they play opposition. And they get all the people, the humans, that are on the opposing side, so they know who they are, and they act like they're with them, and they're their buddies, and they're going to help them fight against this evil New World Order, but in the end, they're just going to betray them. And so I was not allowed to join any groups. In fact, that's what he told me from the beginning, that no groups, no organizations, no associations, no churches, no religions. I was not to join anything. I was to sit at his feet. And so that's all I do. I'm not a member of anyone, anything. No one controls me but the Father. So, 9/11 is an interesting date. Now, I know people are throwing out, oh, look at all these dates for September. Well, September is typically the month of chaos. You have the Virgo Revelation 12 sign that they're hyping for the September 23rd. September 21 is usually a hype date of theirs too, so I'm not sure what they're doing about the 21st, the Day of Atonement. The 30th, the Christians are all over hyping that one. I like that one. I like the correlation. There was just no way that this eclipse, it worked into Christian prophecy, which is why they were able to get support from the Christian community, pumping out their videos on how this is a huge eclipse and prophetic. And no, it wasn't prophetic. It wasn't anything to do with God. So I really doubt on the 30th, 40 days later, because I tried to tie that in. I don't know. I'm not going to touch that one yet. He's told me nothing about the dates. He doesn't go by dates. The Father doesn't. He tells me to watch for signs, and that's what I watch for. I went out before the show to see if I was going to see the sign that his coming was here. And I always look before every show to see if he's going to give me the sign. There's particular days I watch for it, and I have not gotten it. What he did show me was when I was asking for him to show me some destructions that are coming, he gave me I don't know if it was a dream or a vision or what it was. It's kind of like one of those things where you start to see it while you're sleeping, and then somewhere you're waking up and you're sitting at the edge of your bed just watching it. A tsunami out the northwest coast. I don't know if it's an earthquake or what. There's some kind of upheaval. I'll assume it's an earthquake. I don't know what it is. But there's a huge avalanche of water that come towards northern California, and it destroys this entire peninsula and bay of California to the point where it goes all the way out to Route 5, and all the way down Route 5 is where it proceeds to destroy Southern California. A lot of islands are made in between. And at the end of the dream, I said, "Where is this?" He said, "Monterey Bay." And so I had to look that up on the internet. I had no idea where Monterey Bay was. But it ends up someplace. It's a peninsula up north of San Francisco. And so what I was seeing was the start of all that avalanche that takes out San Francisco and Oakland and all that bridge area. So anyway, I might do a separate video on that. I'm running out of time. I have no idea when that's going to take place. Just something he was showing me because I was asking. But I'll maybe do a video on that this weekend or something, or this week. Anyway, folks, I'll be back on Wednesday at noon. Till then, everybody, God bless.